proclaiming Christ, victor over sin and death. You're listening to Ancient Faith Radio, your Orthodox Internet radio connection.
And welcome to Live with the Louhs. My name is Father Nicholas Lowe. It's such a blessing to have you with us, joining us on this special evening. So happy that you're joining us. And if you're new to Live with the Louhs, this show is a show that merges both faith and psychology to guide you and to give you some principles to live by as you journey in your walk of faith. So we're so happy that you're joining us this evening. Our show airs every single Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Ancient Faith Radio. You know, before we start tonight's show, I do want to encourage you that many of us have social media platforms, and I just encourage you, stay connected to us on our Louhs platforms. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under the headings of the Louhs, and that last name is spelled Louhs. And also, friends, if you're interested in listening to our sermons, we publish sermons every single Sunday, and these sermons, both Roxanne and I kind of team up on these sermons, and they're there on our YouTube channel, which is also at the Louhs as well. And we also encourage you that if you're looking for a daily word of encouragement, you know, so many people today are asking for just inspiration. We see so many horrific things taking place on the news. We see things happening in the media, and for a lot of us, there's just a lot of doom and gloom. And if you're one of these people that's like us, looking just for a word of encouragement, subscribe to receiving our daily inspirational messages that you can find on our website at thelouhs.com/subscribe. And all it is meant to be is just simply to inspire you. And if you're already receiving them, please do us a favor. Just simply share them with your friends and family. There's no strings attached. This is not, you're not going to receive any other information than those daily inspirational messages. So we encourage you to do so. And as always, friends, I encourage you to join the conversation. We love having a dialogue with all of you. And so call us at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346, or you can email me during the live broadcast of tonight's show by emailing me at ask@ancientfaith.com. That's ask@ancientfaith.com. So let's get started. Friends, throughout our lives, we're all going to experience at times a moment that changes the course of our life. For many of us, it could be the death of a loved one or very bad news, maybe even some good news at times that could change the course of our life. But I would argue that for all of us, 9/11 of 2001 is a moment in a time which all of us will remember. We remember watching the United Airlines Flight 175 and American Airlines Flight 11 crash into the World Trade Center. We will also watch as Flight 77 would crash into the Pentagon and Flight 93, where these heroic members of the passengers that were on this flight would help to defeat the terrorists that were there, but sadly would crash in a suburb in Pennsylvania. We remember that day because 3,000 of our fellow Americans lost their lives, and countless others were injured, not only physically, but also emotionally and spiritually. What you may not know is that during 9/11, the only religious institution that was destroyed on that day was a beautiful Orthodox church, a Greek Orthodox church called St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church. It sat right in the shadows of the World Trade Centers. By the grace of God, through a tremendous amount of love, support, and effort, the St. Nicholas Church now stands as a testimony to all on the right next to where the World Trade Centers were once at. It's there to remind us that God's light always transcends the world's darkness. In fact, its official name is St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox National Shrine. And I'm so honored that tonight we are having, not only are we, as we are remembering those who lost their lives in 9/11, we're also taking a moment to introduce all of you to a very dear friend of mine. His name is Father Andreas Vithoulkas, and he serves as the parish priest of the St. Nicholas Shrine. And before I invite him to speak, I do want to encourage all of you, again, to join the conversation at 1-855-237-2346. Let me tell you a little bit about Father Andreas. He was born in Flushing, New York, and he graduated in 1994 from Hellenic College with distinction with a BA in Religious Studies. And in 1998, he graduated from Holy Cross Greek Orthodox School of Theology with a Master's of Divinity with the highest of distinction. In 2001, he married his lovely wife, Antiochian, who is an amazing woman as well, and they're blessed with with twin sons, Nicholas and Petros. He was ordained to the diaconate and priesthood in 2007 and was immediately appointed assistant to the then Chancellor of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese, His Eminence Metropolitan Savas. In 2014, he was awarded the rank of Economos, and in 2017, that of Protopresbyter. And in 2019, under the amazing leadership of His Eminence Archbishop Elpidophoros of America, he appointed Father Andreas to be the Chancellor of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, and now he serves his most recent assignment as the priest of the shrine. Father Andreas, it's always a pleasure to be with you and to see you. Welcome to Live with the Louhs.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, brother. It's really an honor for me. I follow you and your lovely wife closely, and the work you both do is tremendous, and really honored to be a part of it today.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. All to God's glory as we, both of us, work in His holy vineyard. You know, Father Andreas, for many of us yesterday, as we marked the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, for many of us, our hearts were heavy throughout the day, just remembering, watching on the news, the different moments that would mark the significant events that took place on that day. But walk our audience through what happened yesterday at St. Nicholas Shrine as we were honoring the 9/11 victims. What took place on that day?
Well, Father, it's a very moving day and a very emotional day for all of us. The entire area becomes a place of almost a sanctuary. The entire World Trade Center area is closed off to the public. And as I was making my way through in the morning to get to the shrine, all you saw were people there praying for their loved ones, memorials, commemorations. I would hear the names of the victims being read now over the loudspeaker throughout the memorial park. So even just getting to the church now, you could imagine the sense of emotion that's taking place throughout the day at that area, at the 9/11 Memorial Museum, which is right below the shrine, at the firehouse that was so involved with the rescue mission, and just a tremendous, almost I would say like a Holy Friday procession. You know, it was that sort of feeling that you got walking through that area. You know, we of course at the shrine prepared to have a memorial service for the victims that were lost on that day, and it was presided over by His Eminence now Metropolitan Apostolos of New Jersey, with the blessing, of course, of His Eminence Archbishop Elpidophoros and various other clergy. We gathered there with some of the families of the victims that lost their loved ones on that day. And we had a beautiful service praying for their souls, asking God for His grace, praying for the families of the victims, asking for healing and consolation to them. And it was just a very moving day for all of us to be after 20 years where this church, we were not able to hold the service inside. And for the first time now, we can be back in our church, in our shrine, to pray for those people that lost their lives in that exact spot. So it just the emotion was beyond description for me.
Sure. Father Andreas, could you share with our audience tonight, where exactly is the St. Nicholas Shrine in relationship to where the Twin Towers were?
So that's a very, very important question, and I feel that the location of the shrine is very important because the original church of St. Nicholas that was there for about 100 years, the original immigrants that migrated over from Ellis Island came to Lower Manhattan and began that community, that first community, Orthodox community in the area. the church was right there on right there in the park. That church was destroyed when the South Tower fell onto it. Now, the church itself is not exactly where the new church is. It's right across the way, right across the park. If you go to Liberty Park, you'll notice that where the original church was now is the statue that's dedicated to the first soldiers that went and fought in Afghanistan. It's the soldiers on the horseback that were the first soldiers that went into battle to fight for our freedom. And there's a statue there that's right on the spot. Now, the new church is built right across from that, maybe about 100 feet down, and it sits on the highest point of the entire World Trade Center area, overlooking the pools where the Twin Towers stood. So from the shrine, you can see now where the pools are, where the original Twin Towers stood. And it's very important because the church itself, the way it's designed now, the shrine, stands there as a beacon, especially at night when it's all lit up. And last night was an incredible sight because you had the lighting of the church emanating from within, the entire church now glowing. And right next to it, you saw the lights coming out from the pool, shooting up where these Twin Towers were standing. And it was an incredible scene to see that together. But it's really all in that same area that now the rebuilt St. Nicholas Church stands.
You know, if you're just joining us, we're speaking with Father Andreas Vithoulkas. He is the parish priest at the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Shrine, located right where the Twin Towers are. And if you'd like to speak with him or have a comment or a question, feel free to do so. You can call us at 1-855-237-2346 or email me a question during our show at ask@ancientfaith.com. That's ask@ancientfaith.com. You know, speaking about that design, Father Andreas, you're absolutely correct. I mean, and we would encourage all of you just to even go to the website at St. Nicholas Shrine just to kind of see it in the evening. It is absolutely breathtaking. But, you know, why do you think that design was chosen? Because it is a very unique, there's nothing like it, I would argue, in the entire world.
It is very unique, but it is also very traditional. Many people don't know that the architecture of the church, the design of the church, Santiago Calatrava, who is the main architect of the church, based his design on one of the most famous Orthodox churches in history of St. Sophia. And so the church itself, the dome, the windows inside the dome, all mimic the Church of St. Sophia. So in style, it's a very traditional Byzantine church. However, it is very unique in the sense that it has these features. It's made from Pendelic marble. All the marble came from Mount Pendeli in Greece, the same marble that the Acropolis on the Parthenon was built with. Every little piece of marble, if you could imagine. And that the marble is cut in such a way that it's translucent. Light, in other words, emanates from inside the dome and throughout the church so that the church lights up at night. And vice versa, during the day, you have this opposite effect of ambient light in the church, creating a very unique effect. But the combination of the architecture, the Byzantine iconography, which again is a very unique part of this whole church, which I'm sure we'll talk about, creates an experience for someone, whether you're somebody that's walking into an Orthodox church for the first time, or someone that has been to throughout their lives raised Orthodox and for the first, has been to many Orthodox churches. Again, I guarantee that it's going to be a very unique experience. Just the setting itself, Father, you can imagine. You've been there. You were there on the consecration, and you followed the entire project. But you can imagine now this oasis in the middle of the financial district, in the middle of the hustle and bustle of New York City. And you can you fathom that? Just imagine now
Mm.
that you walk out of the noise, out of the financial district, the iron and the glass and the buildings surrounding that area, and you walk into this oasis, this beautiful place that you
Hmm.
can pray and find some quiet and a place that you can talk with God. Essentially,
Right, right.
that's the experience.
I love hearing His Eminence Archbishop Elpida Foros. And for those that do not know, he is the hierarch, the presiding hierarch of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese here in America. An extraordinary man. You could read all about him and his just his passion. And I love, speaking of passion, I just love hearing his passion when it comes to the St. Nicholas Shrine. He speaks in such eloquence about what it means to him. But I'd love to hear, what does it mean for you? I mean, serving in this role as the parish, as the priest of the shrine, and seeing the different people that come in, and having been from New York, I mean, what does it mean to you just to serve in this role?
Father, you're absolutely right about His Eminence, and that was one of his. And as Chancellor, I remember that one of the things he promised to accomplish was to finish the building of St. Nicholas, and he did it.
Hmm.
And that was one of his main goals. And I was inspired by his own enthusiasm for St. Nicholas. I mean, it was really contagious. But for me, it's I have to confess that many times I become very emotional
Mm.
during liturgizing there. It becomes for me as a priest very difficult sometimes to contain my emotion because I was there on September 11th. I
Hmm.
was in the city. I was there with my wife working in the city as well. Not, and we remember the towers coming down. We
Mm.
remember the chaos. We remember trying to leave the city to get back home safely, and seeing all the tragedy around us that took place, and that never leaves you. As
Mm.
a psychologist, as a pastor,
Hmm.
that kind of experience, it stays with you throughout your
Hmm.
life. And I've carried that throughout my life. And there was always something about that experience that wanted me to want to give back, to want to
Hmm.
go into the ministry. So I would say that experience for me was one of the things that led me to the ministry, to the church.
Mm.
And I never could have imagined in my life that one day I would be at that spot
Mm.
serving that
Mm.
community, and being the pastor, the priest of the newly rebuilt St. Nicholas Church. For me, it's something that every time I walk through those doors, I can't believe it. I can't
Mm.
believe it. And the emotion that I feel,
Sure.
whether it's what happened there, the victims that lost their lives, the love of the people that sacrificed so much to rebuild this church, to make
Mm.
sure, is just, for me, humbles me in my ministry. And as Jesus says, we become servants,
Mm.
and you want to be more of a servant when you see the sacrifice of all these individuals.
Father Andreas, we obviously know of the tragic loss, the tremendous amount of death that took place on that day, over 3,000 people, and then that's what happened on that day. But we know that many died afterwards, just from illnesses suffered from, just from the rubble and the impact of the attacks. But maybe open up our hearts a little bit to what you see with people coming into the shrine who may not necessarily be Orthodox, but maybe just be coming in, who were impacted, who had lost a family member at 9/11, or people that are just coming there. Tell us about what their stories, if you can, just to kind of, I think, paint that picture for all of us to see what real suffering that we're seeing around that took place, especially on that day.
One day I was in the shrine, and as we do, we talk to people. We greet visitors, give
Hmm.
tours. And try to explain what we're doing there. And we also have many clergy throughout the Archdiocese that come and serve, which is a beautiful thing to have other clergy come and participate and serve at the shrine. But one day I noticed someone there that was, having a very difficult time emotionally. And I went up to them and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said to me, "This is the first time that I've ever been back since 9/11." And she had
Mm.
lost someone on that day. And she said, "I could never come back here. I can't come back. I could not come back to this area until now, until this
Wow.
church was here." And this church allowed her to have closure and to
Mm.
be able to move on in her life, not to forget, of course, but to be able to have closure and to know, to be reassured that her loved one is in a good place now. And for
Mm.
me, that is what that place is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of teaching about Orthodoxy, teaching about our
Right,
faith,
right.
it's a place that also is, the area there that the church is built on was known as the Pile. It was just
Mm.
a place of disaster. It was a
Mm.
place where it was just chaos. And now those that have that image from that day come back and see this monument, this
Mm.
cenotaph that stands there for all those victims that don't have a burial.
Right.
And we are there to commemorate them, to remember them uh, throughout our services, and their memories inscribed throughout the
Right.
church. Anywhere you look, you'll see a reference to 9/11.
Beautiful. If you're just joining us this evening, we have dedicated our show to the victims of 9/11, partly as well as this extraordinary beacon of hope and light that is there at the World Trade Center, where the former Trade Center's towers were located. We are speaking with the parish priest of the new St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox National Shrine that serves, as we said at the top of the show, just as a reminder. It's a reminder of how Christ's light transcends all the darkness, and that it also serves as a place for peace and comfort and just solace. We're speaking with Father Andreas Vithoulkas, and we'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or comment about the St. Nicholas Shrine, feel free to do so. You can call us at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346. Or you can email me a question at ask@ancientfaith.com. That's ask@ancientfaith.com. Father Andreas, there's so much symbolism in the church. We talked about how it's very similar to and modeled after Hagia Sophia or Holy Sophia, that's located in Constantinople, Turkey, or present-day Istanbul, with a number of windows. But why is it important that this symbolism also be included in the St. Nicholas Shrine? I mean, I think that for a lot of people, they may have heard about St. Sophia or Hagia Sophia, but tell us a little bit about why that church is so significant and why the Archbishop as well as the architects wanted to make sure that that was so much part of what the new St. Nicholas Shrine would look like.
I believe that the reason is that if you're going to build not only a church or not just a regular, let's say, parish church,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to build a church that symbolizes not only a local community, in other words, but an entire nation.
Mm.
Because St. Nicholas really is a national shrine. It's a church that represents not only the Orthodox, the Greek Orthodox. We've had many Orthodox come into our church and
Mm-hmm.
serve and participate, but also all ethnicities and nationalities. So when you build a church that stands as a national shrine, you're going to model it after one of the most famous churches that ever
Mm.
existed in history. And I
Right.
feel that that was the inspiration for former Archbishop at the time and the architect that decided to use Saint Sophia as the model. Saint Sophia being one of the seven wonders of the world, being
Right.
the dome that stood there, without, almost floating in the air, I think
Mm-hmm.
just has a certain symbolism for us that is so important. And another thing is that because of the persecution that our Orthodox Church endures our patriarchate, His Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew, who we had the blessing of him visiting and performing the door opening ceremony at the church and granting to us relics of St. Nicholas. It stands as a symbol of justice for what he endures and what our church endures in Turkey under unfair circumstances. And for us, this is the new Saint Sophia. This is the new Acropolis. This is the new Parthenon, which is something that the American Parthenon, in a sense, for us, because of the importance that it has, not only for us as Orthodox, but for our entire country. Many politicians have come in admiring the beauty of our traditions, the beauty of our church, but also the beauty of our faith, and that's the most important thing.
Speaking of beauty, Father Andreas, I think it would be so beautiful if we could share with our listeners tonight, when you walk into that shrine, that church, it is breathtaking. I mean, on so many different levels. Can you walk just the audience through what that is from the moment that they enter to the icons that are there, especially and specifically the icon of the Virgin Mary that's located in the apse of the altar, just to share with our audience what they would see if they came in?
Well, I often like to, when a visitor comes, I often like to take them outside before you enter into the church to look at it now with all the skyscrapers behind it. But as you come close, you'll notice there's an inscription from the Gospel of John saying that no greater love than to give one's life for your brother. And I think that says it all, because it sets the tone for you why this church is here. The sacrifice. The sacrifice of our Lord, first of all, but the sacrifice of all those individuals, the 3,000 plus that died on that day for our freedoms. And that prepares you to walk through the door. And once you get into the door, right away you see this magnificent church with the beautiful architecture, as we mentioned. There's there's two candle rooms to the side where the faithful will go and light the candles with the hand of God, with the souls in his hand above the candle rooms. But there's a very beautiful image to the left, which I want to mention, which is the image of His Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew giving the church, the newly rebuilt church, to our patron saint, St. Nicholas, which is a beautiful image, a donor icon, traditional within our tradition, where the emperors would offer the church to the patron saint, but very important for us because of His Holiness's support and love of St. Nicholas. And so right away you see that image of His Holiness and St. Nicholas together. And once you come through the main doors, you're just the dome with the pan-Orthodox above, the prophets, and all the images around the church is so breathtaking. The images themselves, the iconographic program itself was designed I would say, put together with the blessing of His Eminence by His Grace Bishop Joachim of Amisus, who's at the Holy Cross Seminary, one of the renowned scholars in Byzantine iconography. And the themes themselves, really, as I mentioned, incorporate all these things: rebirth, remembrance, reconciliation, intercessory prayer, resurrection. And so throughout these scenes, you'll notice all these themes in the church relating again to 9/11. You'll notice the life of St. Nicholas from his ordination to the episcopacy to his dormition, and various miracles that he performed throughout his life. But there are three icons in particular that I really enjoy pointing out. The first one is a traditional icon of St. Nicholas, of him as this patron saint of mariners, of sailors, and he's on a boat. And in this image, though, he's rescuing someone drowning, but that person he's rescuing is coming out of the fire of the burning towers with the original church of St. Nicholas below him. So again, incorporating the scene of 9/11 there. And then when you look straight above the altar into the sanctuary, again, you'll notice, as you mentioned, the Mother of God with the entire city of New York below her, the skyline. And oftentimes I had people say, it says, I can't believe this image. It's so unique.
It's beautiful.
And I explain in a way that, it's the Mother of God that's praying for this city, but praying for the whole world, embracing all of us. And that's being shown there. And finally, the very traditional icon of the resurrection, where Jesus is rescuing our forefathers from Hades, and with various Old Testament prophets, Abel, who is the first innocent to be murdered. But also within that image, you'll notice the firefighters, policemen and women, first responders that lost their lives on that day, incorporated into the image of the resurrection. The iconography itself was painted by Father Louhkas of Xenophontos Monastery in Mount Athos. So most of the icons were painted actually on Mount Athos, and then they were shipped and put on the walls of the church by him when he came.
It is something that, for those of you that are maybe new to Orthodoxy or just exploring the Orthodox Church, one of the things I would share with you is that icons are not, they're not pictures that we have on a wall like you would have a picture of a loved one. In many ways, they serve as windows to our potential. They kind of reveal to us, they're really how the early Christian church, and as Father Andreas beautifully was speaking of one in particular, that of Saint Sophia, our churches would oftentimes be adored with all of these icons, not only just to give a beautiful, the life of Christ, but also to use them as teaching. They were almost like, I like to refer to them sometimes as like the very first Sunday school books. They were just there to kind of educate the people, because many people, to be honest with you, didn't know how to read. And that's actually the idea of reading. If we do some research on it, it's relatively a recent thing, at least compared to the early Christians. Many of them weren't able to read, or only there were a few that did. And so they would use icons to teach. And I love the particular icon that you're referring to, Father Andreas, because it teaches us the protection that Christ and the Virgin Mary have as they are kind of embracing, the city of New York, and really embracing all of us, because I think all of us, no matter who we are, go through difficult, dark times. I mean, it may not be quite to the extent of what so many of those victims and their families experienced on 9/11, but we have our own, if you will, and respectfully I'd say this, our own 9/11 moments where we hear news that just literally rattles the earth beneath us, and how important it is for us that when we see even an icon of the city of New York with the Virgin Mary and Christ embracing it, that we also remember that in our dark times it's Christ that's embracing all of us, that he's always with us, as he says, even to the end of time. And so I love that you shared that, and maybe just, I'm sure as people are coming in, they experience that same beauty, but just kind of building onto this, I can't help but think, in 5 years from now, if you were to kind of, wave a magic wand, or obviously I don't expect you to be able to understand or know the mind of the Archbishop, but I mean, what are your hopes? What would be your hopes, or do you think is the Archbishop's hopes that in 5 years from now, what is St. Nicholas Shrine? I mean, because it seems like, as you were mentioning before the show, the potential is just so tremendous.
I think, Father, as we mentioned earlier, it's really only the beginning for us. We're really been very slowly opening up our doors. It was just recent. We had the lighting of the church on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and His Eminence Archbishop Vithoulkas with Father Alex Carlutzos were there to light the church for the first time in that area. And then we had the visit of His Holiness, his patriarchal visit to the United States. and the door opening ceremony that took place, and the granting of the relics of St. Nicholas that were given to him from the city of Bari and brought to the shrine where we have them for the faithful to venerate. And then we had the consecration in July. So it's been a sequence. And finally, we opened the doors to the public last year on the feast day of St. Nicholas. And so you could imagine it's really been only a matter of months that we've really been opened. And I believe that the response that we are receiving from people is just one of people coming from all over the country, all over the world, inspired. Many times I'll have the Divine Liturgy, and we'll have people walking around and seeing, and after the liturgy come up, and people will walk into the fellowship hour, and have some food with us and say, wow, you guys are really so welcoming. Just, anybody coming in and welcoming them and wanting to know more about our faith and our traditions. So we are there, and part of, I believe, as you mentioned, His Eminence's vision is that this is a shrine for, he said it many times, for all of the Orthodox, not just the Greek Orthodox, all Orthodox faiths, all Orthodox traditions, but it's a shrine for all people to come and visit and participate. And I believe that that's the direction we're heading in, to be a place where people can come and experience the love of our traditions, the love of God, and that in the end, love overcomes evil. Amen. And that no matter what tragedy took place, what evil transpired on that day, what injustice, that in the end, love conquers all. And this shrine will be a place to never forget, first of all, the victims that lost their lives there, but also to be a place of hope for future generations to come in and find a place that is different from the rest of the world.
In many ways, a refuge from the chaos and the craziness that we all experience. You are listening to Live with the Louhs. We are speaking with a dear friend of our show, Father Andreas Vithoulkas. He is the parish priest of the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox National Shrine, located right where the Twin Towers were. And we're dedicating tonight's show not only to the victims of 9/11 and their families, but also to reminding us that light always transcends darkness. And we invite you to call us if you'd like to speak with Father Andreas. The number is 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346. Or you can email me during the live broadcast of our show by emailing me at ask@ancientfaith.com. That's ask@ancientfaith.com. And I've just been told by our producer that we have a caller. Welcome to Live with the Louhs. Hello? Are you there?
Are you, Father, your blessing?
The blessings of our Lord. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I didn't know if I was on the air or not. Yes. I attended, I'm an Orthodox Christian, and I attended a baptism several years ago. Oh, not several, only about maybe 3 years ago. And the baby's name was Dionysios. And the favors that were given out at the baptism were little laminated icons of Saint Dionysios of Zakynthos. And on the back was a mention that in the rubble of the World Trade Center in 9/11, one of the very, very few things from the original church was an icon of Saint Dionysios of Zakynthos, who is, in many respects, a beacon of faith and sainthood for the idea of forgiveness. And I wondered if Father Andreas could comment on that and the role that plays in the national shrine with that particular saint.
Thank you so much for that. That's a great question. Father Andreas?
Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's one of the only relics that were salvaged from the original church. There was the icon of Saint Dionysius. There's an icon of Zodochus Pii. There's a gospel book, a bell that called the faithful to worship. But these are the very, very, very few items that were recovered from the original church, and we hold them very closely. They're very dear to us, and we are part of our future plans is to be able to display them for the public to come and see them. But I think that you make an excellent point that Saint Dionysius is really a saint that is associated with forgiveness, and how important that is for us. That, in order to really move on, we have to have forgiveness. In order to build this church, we have to forgive, and we have to allow God's grace to work within us. And that's a tremendous image that you mentioned, and thank you for sharing that. It's a beautiful thing that you brought up. God bless you.
Thank you so much for your call. We appreciate it. So, Father Andreas, as we're kind of continuing the conversation, we only have about like 15 minutes left, but I do want to just kind of get to what our hopes are as the role of Saint Nicholas in the life of New York City, and obviously in America. I know we've talked a little bit about what our hopes are that when people would come there, but for the citizens of New York City, I mean, for them this is still very, very raw. Some of us that live many, many hundreds of miles away, we are impacted by 9/11 in the sense that we pause on 9/11, but there are people that live in the city who are, it's a constant reminder every time they're around that area. Can you just kind of maybe share with us what are the hopes that the shrine will be for the citizens of New York?
Yeah, we need the shrine in New York. We need that presence. We need that presence of God, that symbol there for us so much. And I feel that the one thing that we're looking for is to rebuild that community that was there for 100 years, to rebuild that. And slowly it's coming together. There's people living in the area. People are coming back to the area. We're having baptisms, weddings, young families coming to church. So you're starting to see now the rebuilding of the community, which I think is very important for St. Nicholas, to have that foundation of a community. But it is also important for the fact that we represent the symbol of hope for our entire community, the entire New York City and the entire country. And I believe that we want to encourage people to come and be involved. And what do I mean by that? We've had many events, whether it's been a book signing event for a particular important cause or there's been a special, all kinds of events that take place on a regular basis that are not necessarily Orthodox, but are there for a just cause, for a good reason, to remind us of these things, of justice, of hope, of love. And we encourage people to come, to visit us, to get involved, to participate. And so we want that church, that shrine, to be a shrine for the entire city of New York, for all the people that come and visit, and people visiting throughout the country, but all people coming throughout the world.
Absolutely. I think, one of the things I remember when I had the blessings to go and attend the consecration of the church, I just couldn't help but feel like, what a blessing it is that for people that are working, in the financial district all around there, and just the busyness that some of those, many of those people that may be working in those buildings may have not been alive at 9/11. These are, and as we get farther and farther away from that, but how the shrine and its location, its perfect location, also just gives everyone an opportunity to simply be still throughout the day, because I think we're constantly filling our minds with things to do, and sometimes a different purpose that the world wants us to offer to just kind of make money and just, have all that wealth. And here, this shrine located where it's at reminds us not only of the victims of 9/11, but also the importance of just remembering to be still with God, like to take that time every single day. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely. And we have a little garden off to the side of the church, a little where we have our donor wall, that all the donors that contributed to the building of the rebuilding of St. Nicholas. But that little area is a beautiful little park that people come and they sit throughout the day. And you'll notice people, as you said, coming to have a moment of silence, just to get away from the noise and the hustle of the city. And we have regular services throughout the week. We have the supplicatory canon, the Archdiocese, to the Mother of God 3 times a week, and we have it on the same times, the same days that the original church would offer these services. So continuing that tradition, and people that used to go to those services, now every once in a while, not as often, but you'll see them coming back and saying, I remember when I would come and light a candle and sit for the service. And then on Sundays, we have our divine liturgy, and throughout the week, we celebrate. So it's a constant place of prayer, a constant place of people finding some kind of refuge, and I think that it's so important and so necessary for the people that are in the area and are just need that to get away from, as you mentioned, that mindset of just working and money and running around.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that we just, all of us can use that reminder, and we hope that that's what, among other things, that's what we hope that the St. Nicholas Shrine will offer all of us. You're listening to Live with the Louhs. We are speaking with Father Andreas Vithoulkas. He is the priest at the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox National Shrine. We've only got a few minutes left, but we do invite you, if you'd like to speak with Father Andreas, to give us a call at 1-855-237-2346, or email me a question at ask@ancientfaith.com. I do want to welcome Christina as a caller. Welcome, Christina, to our show.
Hello, and hi, Father. This is wonderful.
Great. Well, welcome to Live with the Louhs. We're grateful that you're with us this evening.
Thank you. And as a resident of the financial district for several years, I do have to say that it has been wonderful seeing the church finally open and watching the construction over the course of several years. It really is magical to see the church alive and thriving today. And really, when you walk into the doors, you immediately feel this amazing feeling of peace. It's, besides the stunning artwork on the walls, it really has a very tranquil feeling to it. And attending the services every weekend, I can honestly say, as someone who married into the Orthodox Church, this church has been such a welcoming environment. And I know that Father had mentioned that was the goal of this shrine, is to be a church and a location for all. So as someone who has been inside, I can attest to the fact that is absolutely what it is, and that is really what you feel when you walk in.
Thank you, Christina. I think that's so. Father Andreas, I obviously know that's something that we talked about earlier, but I'd love to hear your comments to what someone that sounds like a parishioner or someone that comes and visits the shrine, what that must make you feel, as well as what we're hoping to allow everyone to feel as they experience the Orthodox Church.
As I mentioned, it's been a labor of love for from the time that the permission to rebuild, those individuals that fought to rebuild the church there, and those that work to raise the finances, and the Friends of St. Nicholas, and all these individuals that have worked so hard to rebuild the church, and now the people that are there that are running the church, because now we have the church built, but now we have an actual living community, and
Right.
it's not the walls that make the church, as you know, but it's the people inside.
Absolutely.
And the people inside are so full of love, so full of compassion, so welcoming, that I know that anybody walking through those doors will feel that. And I'm humbled by those around me. I'm humbled by their love, their sacrifice, and what they make that place. I have to say, it's I've served in many communities, and all have been beautiful, beautiful communities, great communities. But I feel a sense here, because it's building up now. It's the grassroots of this community. It's a very different experience, and the love and the welcoming that you feel walking through those doors, is tremendous. It's all one big family.
Exactly. Oh, so well said, Father Andreas. And Christina, thanks so much for calling us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Father Andreas, we only have a few minutes left of our show, but I did want to, you've highlighted several times, and I think it's so important, that this didn't come easy. There were a tremendous amount of, just like in anything, we built a church here in Jacksonville recently, and there are always challenges no matter who we are and where we're at. But I love the fact that so many people really put in their blood, sweat, and tears to bring about the St. Nicholas Shrine. And I maybe, if you wouldn't mind, just highlighting, their efforts and what really, because it really was something that took a great deal of efforts. And then also, I'd love to share with our audience where they can go to find out more about the St. Nicholas Shrine, what the website, and maybe if they'd like to have a candle lit or an opportunity for just to find out more about the shrine, if you could share that with them as well.
Absolutely. Well, I would have to first, as I mentioned, to really give credit to His Eminence Archbishop Elpidoforos, because that was one of his main goals, was to finish the building of the church and to open the doors. And I remember, as the chancellor, working under him, that this was very close and dear to his heart, and he made every effort to make sure that this happened in a very brief time. The other person that I feel really needs mentioning, who has really lived and fought for St. Nicholas, is a clergyman of the Archdiocese, one of the most well-known clergymen, Father Alex Carlutos, who is really one of the individuals that has been fighting for the rebuilding from the very beginning, the rebuilding of St. Nicholas, together with the Friends of St. Nicholas, the non-for-profit group, to raise the money and to finish the construction. So these groups and the benefactors, the major donors that contributed the funds, because, as you mentioned, it was not an easy process. I mean, just the building materials, the construction.
Right.
Imagine building in the middle of the World Trade Center, of the financial district, the challenges of that sort of thing. Building with very specific type of criteria, creating a bomb-proof building. Our church lies above the entire Port Authority complex. So you could imagine the requirements that were necessary to build a structure, any kind of structure. Nevertheless, one of the most beautiful structures, I believe, that in the area. So all these individuals coming together to push and work with the Port Authority, who was helped, really was supportive of rebuilding the church, made this dream a reality. And since I was assigned there, I have a tremendous amount of co-workers and support from people, our parish council, our individuals working in the shrine and for the shrine, that really work so hard to make sure that this mission, the goal that we mentioned earlier, a church for all people, it becomes a reality again. And that's the work we have ahead of us. And we really need your support. And that's the beauty about it, is that we're not just a local parish. We're a parish for the entire nation. So you can become a part of it. You can join. You can be a member of our parish. You can contribute, and it's all very easy. If you go to our website, all the information is there. Maybe Father can provide the link later. We also are working on, we should be completed very shortly, a tour, a virtual tour that you can link in from the website, and you could receive an entire tour of the church through your computer. You don't even have to come to the shrine. So that's going to be up and running very shortly. So I encourage you to please look us up at our website and follow the links, and you'll find all the information that you need.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's, I can't emphasize this enough to all of our listeners this evening to definitely go and visit the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church and Shrine. You can find out more about it by going to the website at St. Nicholas. So it's StNicholasWTC.org. So it's St. Nicholas WTC.org. I also, we got just a text or an email, just a reminder to let all of you know about, if you're on Instagram, that you can find out more about the great things that they're doing at the St. Nicholas Shrine by going to, if you're on Instagram, go to at St. Nicholas NYC. So it's at St. Nicholas NYC. And thanks to the emailer for emailing us that information. Father Andreas, we just have about 2 minutes left, and I really, we could speak another hour on this topic. I truly loved enjoying it, and I'm sure our audience did as well. But in the last, few minutes, for those who are listening, who are just considering, or thinking about visiting the shrine, or may have a family member that was impacted by the shrine, the attacks on 9/11, how could we leave a message with them that just invites them to come and to experience the shrine and what that experience will do for them? Can you share that with us before our last minute?
It's like the gospel says, come and see. No matter how much I tell you about it and use words to describe it, in the end of the day, faith is an experience. And once you walk through those doors, you will experience faith. You will experience God. And you will definitely leave with something. I can tell you that you will definitely leave with something that you won't forget for the rest of your life.
I love that. Father Andreas, brother, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's such a pleasure to be with you, to learn from you, to hear your passion, and just to hear the great work that you all are doing at the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church and National Shrine. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, brother. God bless you too. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. And I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. And, as we're journeying through life, and as we sometimes kind of have these dates, these 9/11 dates where we pause and remember, sometimes I think as people we do great sprints, but don't do such great marathons. I want to encourage you, just take the time to not only remember the 9/11 victims, not just on 9/11, but to remember them frequently. Remember their families. For them, the day didn't end yesterday. It continues. The sadness, the mourning, to pray for God's comfort, to pray, as we were mentioning earlier, with this beautiful icon that is right above the altar table there at the St. Nicholas Shrine, to pray that God's grace and that God will send just a comforting blanket to be around them. And I also encourage you as well to do all that you can to try to make a difference in this world. That's what the shrine is aiming to do. It's trying to be a difference maker, to be a beacon of light in this world. So look for opportunities for you to be a shrine, for you to be an opportunity to shed some light in a world that's struggling so much with darkness. I really want to thank you all again for being with us. I want to thank Matushka Trudy for producing tonight's show. And next Tuesday, we have a special show. We're going to be dedicating the show to healing after divorce. For so many people who experience divorce, they can sometimes feel isolated. They can feel alone. We want to dedicate a show to them. And so if you have a friend or you yourself are separated or have experienced a divorce, Join us next Tuesday as we interview 3 amazing women, all of whom experienced divorce, but are using that difficulty, that tragedy in their life to do something good with it by creating a curriculum for those who experience a divorce. So definitely don't miss out on next Tuesday's show. And as I always share with you, friends, stay connected to us on our social media platforms. Again, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you've read the book Renewing You and you found it enjoyable, do us a favor. Go to Amazon.com or on the Ancient Faith bookstore, which is store.ancientfaith.com/renewing you, and simply leave a review. If you found it helpful, we'd love to hear from you. Again, my friends, God bless you all, and God stay strong in your walk of faith.
Father Nick and Dr. Roxanne are the authors of the book Renewing You, a priest, a psychologist, and a plan, which can be purchased at store.ancientfaith.com. Their daily inspirational messages can be found at thelouhs.com/subscribe. Be sure also to search for The Louhs on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Live with the Louhs is a listener-supported presentation of Ancient Faith Radio.